At 19, she discovered an amazing secret from her millionaire cowboy husband that changed everything. Sarah Phillips was dancing through life on clouds of love and hope, her wedding to Jake marking a fairy tale beginning. But as she sat in the dusty attic of their sprawling ranch, surrounded by unfamiliar opulence, a sense of unease crept in. The faded box she unearthed drew her in, an ornate brooch nestled within, a family heirloom she recognized from Jake's stories. Its shimmering blue stones nearly blinded her under the flickering light. The excitement of this hidden treasure faded as a swirl of uncertainty took hold. What else lay buried beneath the surface? Thunk. The box hit the floor, echoing in the silence of the attic. As she brushed away the dust, a sickening curiosity took root. What if digging into Jake's family history brought her face to face with secrets that threatened their idyllic life? The thought pulsed in her veins, stubborn and alive. She flipped open her laptop, her heart racing, fighting back fears of what she might uncover. Each keystroke felt heavy with implications. What if these discoveries splintered the love she thought unbreakable? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each page she turned, whispers tickled her ears, of debts, betrayals, and shadows lurking in the corners of Jake's legacy. A part of her craved the warmth of their early romance, a life of simplicity, a cowboy on a wild horse. But drowning in the truth that surrounded her felt like choking on the air, a harsh reminder that she was just a small-town girl uprooted and planted in a tapestry of wealth, where she felt like an outsider. Steps down the hall echoed with rumors from neighbors who eyed her with suspicion. That sentiment snaked through her gut and constricted against the warmth blossoming every time Jake wrapped his strong arms around her. Did they see her as an interloper? As an imposter in this sprawling embrace of luxury? Determination struck like a branding iron. Sarah had dreams of education to fulfill, burdens to face alongside Jake. Navigating their ranch felt like walking a high wire, with uncertainty gnawing at her resolve. Would the truth rip open her love and reveal an inescapable divide? Every sensation was doubled, in the physical demands of management and the emotional turmoil, leaving her heart in chains. What if the answers she sought severed their bond forever? Her mind spiraled with images of Jake's face, his stoic mask cracking under the weight of revelations that threatened the very fabric of their happiness. Tension gripped her tighter, as knowledge loomed like a storm. She was more than just a wife. Sarah was about to transform into an investigator, a seeker, and just when she thought she had braced herself for the oncoming tide, a single image materialized in her mind. A vision of their lives together, hanging on a precipice. The heirloom pressing against her heart. Unearthed truths danced like shadows in her thoughts, leaving her gasping for air, teetering between love and the abyss of the unknown. A single question clawed at her relentlessly. Could love endure beneath the brutal truths of inheritance and identity? As she gazed down the long path ahead, dread wrapped around her like a vice, leaving her trembling with uncertainty. The fight for her future was only beginning, and the stakes had never felt higher. As Sarah delved deeper into the labyrinth of Jake's family history, an unexpected truth began to emerge, sparking both fear and a strange exhilaration within her. Sifting through article after article online, her determination was fueled by a need for clarity, something that felt like a flickering light in the opaque murk of doubt surrounding her. Each piece of information shifted her perspective, but it also bound her tighter to the secret unfolding in shadows. Hours passed, the late afternoon sun dipping low in the sky, casting long shadows across the floor. Sarah found herself at a fancy estate auction where Jake's ancestors reportedly amassed their wealth, a family business rooted in questionable dealings. The more she read, the heavier her heart became. The alluring world of polished jewels and grand estates had come at a cost. Whispers of shady transactions lingered around Jake's family, like a storm gathering on the horizon. She could feel the walls closing in, and her fingers trembled as she typed. What if the truth revealed a pattern of deceit and corruption? Would Jake see her as a traitor for pursuing this knowledge? The augury of their marriage, a foundation built on love, catered from secrets and parsed truths. The tension unfurled with every sentence, turning her exploration into an internal clash between her love for Jake and a burgeoning loyalty to the truth. Eventually, she stumbled upon a name that made her blood run cold. A distant cousin of Jake's, notorious for running afoul of the law, tangled in a scandal involving embezzlement. The gravity of that revelation struck Sarah like a branding iron she had once feared would leave its mark. Could Jake inherit a shadow of such disrepute? The thought made her stomach churn, leaving her sleepless with the weight of knowledge. Suddenly there was a cacophony in the hallway. A group of neighbors erupted in laughter, stories spinning around the gatherings that often punctuated life at the ranch. She felt herself recoil at the thought of their laughter. Did they whisper stories about her too? The new bride trying to fit into shoes too big, the town's curiosity rooted in disdain. The love she thought would shield her from such judgment now felt like an anchor pulling her deeper into uncertainty. Affirmation bloomed. She was not about to shy away. Gathering her thoughts, she resolved to take control, her personal growth ignited by the tumult around her. With the laptop still warm beneath her fingers, she analyzed everything she had found, piecing together the stories like a jigsaw puzzle, forming a clearer picture. This was her fight, her story, and she needed to be ready for whatever lay ahead. Every revelation nudged her beliefs and values, sharpening her resolve but also unearthing a quiet fear. What if she became the very thing she despised, tearing apart the fabric of their love in pursuit of the truth? She took in a deep breath, her heart racing at the thought of confronting Jake. She honed in on the quiet, tentative voice urging her to reveal what she had discovered. With an inner mantra, she reassured herself that knowledge could illuminate dark corners. Unveiling truth might not destroy their relationship, but rather strengthen their bond. The time had come to face Jake, to grapple with the implications of what she had learned. He had to know, no matter how dangerous the road ahead might seem. But as she rose, a new question tumbled through her thoughts. Could Jake bear the weight of truths that might fracture the fairy tale she believed they lived? The edge of her resolve hesitated under the weight of the inheritance looming between them. As she prepared to seek out her husband and unveil the shadowy truths that threatened to engulf their lives, one profound realization struck her. Could exploring the darkness lead them into a stronger light? It was a gamble, but Sarah was no longer willing to live in ignorance. The stakes were high and the moment had arrived. Sarah's pulse quickened as she stepped out of the study, her heart contradicting the calm exterior she desperately tried to project. Each step toward the living room felt heavier, a weight pressing on her chest, a mixture of dread and determination that surged forth with every thought of what she would reveal. Jake was there, leaning against the kitchen counter, pouring a cup of coffee. The morning light filtered through the window, casting a soft glow that contrasted sharply with the darkness of her revelations. He looked so at ease, a vision of warmth and stability that she yearned to preserve. Yet the chasm of truth lay between them, waiting to be bridged. "Hey, Bug," he said, his voice laced with affection. "You've been cooped up in that office all morning. Everything okay?" Was it love she felt, or was it fear? They had built their world on laughter and late-night confessions, but now, the specter of his family's history threatened to unravel it all. For a moment she hesitated. Could she really share what she had unearthed? The thought of seeing the spark of joy fade from his eyes made her stomach twist into knots. "Jake, can we talk?" She set her jaw, steeling herself against the tide of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. This was her moment to grow, to confront her internal conflict head-on. He nodded, setting his coffee down. "Sure, what's on your mind?" The way he held her gaze was genuine, expectant. It struck her then how deeply entwined their lives had become, and how much she had to risk. "I've been looking into your family's past," she began cautiously, searching for the right words amid a rising tide of anxiety. "And there are things, uncomfortable truths, that I think we need to discuss." His expression shifted from curiosity to concern. Uncomfortable truths? What do you mean? Taking a deep breath, Sarah forged ahead. I found some articles about the family business and its history. There are whispers, Jake. Whispers of deceit, legal troubles, even embezzlement connected to your relatives. It's bad. Really bad. With that, his face drained of color, the shadows of disbelief pooling in his eyes. You're serious, aren't you? The innocence she had originally seen in him now revealed a layer of complexity she hadn't anticipated. Yes, she replied, her voice steadying. And I know it sounds crazy, but I needed you to hear this from me. I didn't want to keep it secret because I care about you, and us. Silence slammed down between them like an unforgiving door. The tension morphed, transforming her worst fears into living things, writhing in the space that had once felt so secure. Did he see her as a threat? A betrayer of their bond? Sarah. His voice was low, heavy with unspoken turmoil. You should have left it alone. Why dig into something that could hurt us? Each word struck like a lash. A sense of betrayal washed over her, but she held firm. Because ignorance isn't freedom, Jake. Ignorance is suffocating. We can't build a life together on lies or secrets. If someone in your family was involved in wrongdoing, don't we have a right to know? His silence was deafening, filled with unshed words that could bridge the chasm of misunderstanding between them. I love you, she added, more emphatically now, hoping to claw back the sense of connection. I believe facing this together must be our strength, not our weakness. As the two of them stood there, strained yet poised on a shared precipice, an undeniable truth echoed in the depths of her heart. What lay ahead might change everything, forcing them to confront not only the hidden secrets of Jake's family, but also the very foundation of their relationship. And in that moment a chilling thought slipped into her mind. What if Jake wasn't as innocent as he seemed? What if this confrontation opened up a side of him she had never known? The realization rattled her. There was so much more to this than she had bargained for, and as much as she yearned for clarity, the path laid before her was steeped in uncertainty. Could she truly navigate this labyrinth of shadows, or was she about to unleash something far more profound than secrets? The moment lingered, fraught with tension and uncharted territory, as Jake finally opened his mouth to respond. The weight of truth hung palpably in the air, pulsing with the promise of change. The silence stretched, thick and unyielding as Sarah observed Jake's reaction. The shift in his demeanor was palpable. The warmth of his earlier ease cooled to frost. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous tic she had seen before but never in such a heavy context. Each moment seemed to breathe life into her fears, casting a shadow over their shared dreams. Look, Sarah, he finally said, his voice quieter, contemplative. I appreciate that you want to protect us, to protect me. But my family, it's complicated. Engaging with this could fracture everything we've built. Fracture. The word hung in the air, and her heart sank. Yet within that sinking, a spark ignited. She realized this moment was not merely about revealing truths. It was about building a foundation sturdy enough to weather storms. Complicated doesn't mean it should remain hidden, she countered, her voice steadier than she felt. If we're going to move forward, we have to face this together. A flicker of respect crossed his face, but insecurity mirrored it. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I've always been a part of my family's legacy. Maybe I've subconsciously turned a blind eye to things. I just thought we could move past it. Why rock the boat now? Disappointment pooled within her, mixing with determination. Because this isn't just your history, it's ours now. If you can't see that, we're going to be stuck in a cycle of avoidance. Trust me, no insight can be as devastating as ignorance. Don't you want to know the truth, even if it's uncomfortable? What does that even mean for us? He asked, frustration creeping into his tone. It means we'll be better equipped to navigate our future, she replied. By choosing to face what's uncomfortable now, we can shape what our lives will be like tomorrow. This isn't just about your family's misdeeds. It's about our integrity and our potential. As she spoke, a realization dawned within her. A realization that this confrontation wasn't merely about Jake or even his family. It represented a critical moment in her own personal growth. In the past, she often played it safe, choosing the path of least resistance. By confronting this truth, she was shedding layers of complacency, stepping into a role she hadn't fully embraced before, an active participant in her own life. Jake's eyes narrowed, but she saw a glimmer of something beneath his uncertainty. Perhaps curiosity, perhaps resentment toward the truths he had buried deep. The battle lines of familial loyalty and the desire for authenticity were forming right before her eyes. "Maybe I can help you dig deeper, Jake," she suggested softly. "Together we can piece together this puzzle even if it's painful. It could lead to a clarity we desperately need. After all, if your family is hiding something, it could affect our lives in ways we can't even foresee." He sighed, rubbing his temples as if bracing against a gathering storm. "You're right, Sarah, but you have to understand. The things I've seen and heard growing up. It's not just tales of guilt. There are alliances, loyalties. What if facing this truth reveals a side of my family I can't accept? What will it mean for me?" Her heart raced. This was it. A crossroads. What if accepting these truths is what liberates you? You won't be bound by your family's actions or choices if you confront them head-on. Don't let fear dictate who you are or who you could be. For a moment his gaze softened, wrestling with the conflicting emotions. She recognized an opportunity for him to evolve, to step away from the shadows of his family's legacy and forge his identity. "Okay," he finally said almost too quietly. "Let's find out what's really going on." His acquiescence came with a palpable tension, yet it also marked the beginning of a journey. One that she hoped would not only unearth buried truths, but would lead them both toward greater resilience. As they stood together, uncertainty still clouding the air, Sarah envisioned the path ahead unfolding before them, layered with potential. She hadn't just uncovered an unsettling fact. She had engaged in a turning point, a step toward maturity, for herself and for Jake. But an unsettling thought lingered in her mind. What if, in shattering the silence, they unearthed not only truths, but actions far too painful to confront? As they prepared to dive deeper, she felt the echoes of their decisions ripple into the unknown. "Are you truly ready to face whatever comes?" she asked, her voice trembling at the precipice of revelation. Jake's face revealed his resolve wavering beneath layers of anxiety. "I guess we'll find out together, won't we?" And with that, the dark corners of their future loomed ahead, laden with significance and uncertainty, waiting to unveil the secrets hidden in plain sight. Sarah stared at Jake, her heart racing with the weight of his uncertain decision. The air was thick with anticipation, and a deep-seated fear churned within her. They stood at the brink of something monumental, and she felt an urgency to grasp it fully before it slipped away. "What's our first step?" she asked, her voice firm despite the uncertainty swirling inside her. Jake hesitated, his gaze distant. She could see him grappling with the implications of their pact. This wasn't merely an investigation into familial secrets. It was a quest to redefine themselves against the backdrop of their personal and shared histories. Sarah understood now that this was a chance for real transformation, not just for Jake, but for her own evolution as well. "Maybe we need to start by talking to my parents," Jake proposed, his voice strained as if it might shatter the fragile peace they had created. "I've avoided those conversations for so long. Opening that door, it feels dangerous." "Then maybe it's exactly what we need," she replied, feeling the thrill of challenge spark within her. The thought of confronting the truth filled her with both unease and exhilaration. She could sense the potential for growth pulsing at the edges of their lives. In that moment, she reflected on how she had always avoided confrontations, choosing comfort over complexity. Her previous interactions with her own family were safe, even if they lacked depth. She had long been the peacekeeper, the one who navigated through family disputes with a smile. Now, faced with the prospect of peeling back layers of Jake's culture and familial obligations, she no longer felt that preservation held value. Instead, she craved authenticity, even if it came swathed in pain. "Let's promise that we'll hold each other accountable," she said suddenly, a determination crystallizing. "We owe it to ourselves to dig into this without flinching. I can help you." Jake nodded slowly, and Sarah couldn't help but notice the flicker of gratitude in his eyes. They were in this together. The weight of their mutual pact solidified her commitment to not only help Jake, but to also seek her own truth. As they left the cafe and stepped into the bustling city, the sounds of life pulsed around them, but they felt isolated in their shared mission. The vibrant colors of the street contrasted sharply with the shadows she felt creeping into their path. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities and questions about how they would approach his parents. Would they be defensive? Would they confront him about hidden truths? The idea of their confrontation drummed steadily in her mind, twirling around her like a tempest. What was she willing to uncover, not only about Jake's family but about herself as well? Just as she was lost in contemplation, Jake spoke, drawing her back to the present. "I know this is going to be hard, but we have to be ready for anything." His expression darkened, revealing the weight he had carried long before Sarah stepped into his life. "What if my family holds more secrets than we expect?" A knot formed in her stomach as she considered the implications. It wasn't just about the truth of Jake's family. It was about the consequences of those truths for both of them. She took a deep breath, uncertain of how to address his fears without dismissing them. "Whatever it is, we can handle it together. You have me." Jake looked at her, absorbing her words but still uncertain. "And what if what we find out changes everything?" "Then we adapt," she said firmly, allowing her own resolve to bolster his. "We keep growing, that's all we can do." As they walked toward Jake's parents' house, Sarah felt a blend of fear and excitement surge within her. In this moment, they were each other's support system, but how long could that last if the truth turned out to be too uncomfortable? The closer they got, the more palpable the tension became. With every step, she recognized that this was not merely an encounter. It was a crucible that could shape their futures. The reverberations of their quest echoed all around them, signaling something monumental lay just ahead. "We can't turn back, can we?" Jake asked suddenly. Her response was silent but resolute. They were ready. And yet, in the shadow of uncertainty, she couldn't escape the feeling that whatever lay ahead could unravel not just personal loyalties, but the very essence of who they thought they were. "What will you do if you discover something you can't accept?" she finally asked, her heart pounding. Jake's response faltered on his lips, and Sarah could practically feel the storm swirling on the horizon, ready to descend upon them. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," he replied, a foreboding cloud of uncertainty weaving his words as they approached the threshold of disclosure. As they reached Jake's parents' house, a wave of anxiety crashed over Sarah. The quaint structure in front of her suddenly felt like a fortress, its cheerful exterior betraying the potential for chaos lurking within. With every step toward the door, she fought against a desire to retreat, unsure if her own resolve could withstand the weight of what they were about to face. Jake paused, his hand hovering over the doorbell. "We can always walk away," he murmured. But Sarah could hear the conflict in his voice. He didn't truly mean it. He craved answers just as much as she did. "No," she replied, her tone stronger than she felt. "We're not walking away." They had forged a pact to seek the truth despite the fear coursing through them. She gripped his arm for a moment, drawing strength from him, and then he pressed the doorbell. A moment later, they were greeted by Jake's mother, a warm smile quickly curving her lips into surprise. "Jake, it's so good to see you. Come in, come in." The welcome felt genuine, but underneath it, Sarah sensed the anticipation of discomfort lying coiled, ready to strike. Crossing the threshold, Sarah was engulfed by the familiar scent of home-cooked meals. She hesitated, studying the family photographs lining the walls, a testament to memories that now seemed tinged with unease. Here they stood, in the midst of love and warmth, yet anxious to unearth painful truths that could disrupt it all. Jake's parents settled into the living room, a cozy gathering filled with mismatched furniture and the soft hum of nostalgic music. Yet, Sarah noticed Jake's demeanor shift as he sank onto the couch, body tense like a coiled spring. The anxiety draped over her like a heavy shawl, simultaneously stifling her heart and urging her to take action. "Mom, Dad, there's something we need to talk about," Jake began, his tone grave but wavering, exposing the chinks in his armor. As his voice faltered, Sarah felt a surge of empathy for him. She marveled at the courage it took to bring himself to this moment. Jake's parents exchanged a glance, an unspoken language churning silently between them. "What's happened?" his mother asked, concern knitting her brow. Jake took a breath, glancing at Sarah for reassurance. She nodded, her heart racing alongside his. "I've realized there are things I need to understand, about our family, about our past." The immediate shift in energy was palpable. Sarah could feel a charged current run through the room. She felt an unexpected resolve solidify within her. This was not just Jake's burden. It was a shared confrontation that could equally unveil parts of her. His father took a deep breath, heavy with years of buried emotions. "This isn't easy to discuss," he started, his voice trailing off, revealing a vulnerability that made Sarah's stomach twist. They navigated through the conversation like tightrope walkers, each word a step toward the precarious edge of revelation. There were half-truths, assumptions, and what felt like excuses, all circling round until the tension thickened like fog. With each disclosure, Sarah noticed Jake's expression morphing, his disbelief melting into frustration. And then it happened. A comment, an offhand reference by Jake's father which struck like lightning, illuminating dark corners of their family history. Jake's eyes widened with shock, a mixture of confusion and anger. "What do you mean you knew about this? Why didn't you tell me?" The moment was electric. The past shot forth like a flood about to drown them. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat as she watched Jake's world begin to unravel. Her own insecurities quaked under the weight of a truth that could echo into her life as well. As walls began to crumble beneath the pressure of their combined discoveries, a realization dawned on Sarah. This was not merely about Jake's family, but a shared journey into the unknown. A chance for both of them to redefine who they were beyond the layers concealing their truths. But as voices rose and emotions became untamed, a chilling thought pierced her clarity. Each truth unearthed could either bind them tighter or sever the delicate threads that held their connection together. "What have I done?" Jake's voice cracked, his eyes searching for her, his anchor amid the turmoil. Before Sarah could answer, the door slammed shut in the background, a harbinger of unrest. They were deep in it now, and there was no turning back. Would they emerge from this confrontation stronger, or would the cascade of revelations wreak havoc on their newly formed bond? In the eye of the storm as they faced the brewing conflict, Sarah realized they had crossed a threshold. The real question now was, could either of them embrace the truths that lay ahead, or would they fracture under the weight of discovery? Jake's father's voice cut through the haze of tension that filled the room. "We didn't want to hurt you, Jake. We thought it was best to leave the past where it lies." The sound of that admission landed heavily. Sarah felt the family's distress ripple through her, igniting her own fears and doubts about confronting her past. "Best for whom?" Jake shot back, his frustration morphing into something deeper, almost desperate. "You did it to protect yourselves, not me." The rawness of his emotion prompted an involuntary response from Sarah. She turned her gaze to her own reflection in a framed photo of the family, pondering the parallels of secrecy and isolation that seemed to weave through both their lives. She remembered the times she'd skirted around questions about her own family, deflecting with quaint stories that never revealed the real pain hidden beneath the surface. How many times had she allowed herself to be defined by curated versions of her past? As Jake and his parents began to hash out the details of old wounds, Sarah felt an unsettling urge to bare her own truths. The words slipped from her lips before her mind could censor them. "What about me? I have things I need to understand too." All eyes turned toward her, a sudden shift in focus that sent her heart racing. "I mean, my family has secrets too. Maybe it's time I face them as well." The room grew silent, the air thickening with expectations. Jake's expression morphed from shock to a flicker of understanding, as if she had invited him into a more profound shared experience. It was unexpected, but liberating. In that moment, Sarah realized that her journey of personal growth was tied to confronting her own historical shackles as much as Jake's. "Sarah," Jake started, his voice delicate as he sought to reclaim control over the situation. "No," she interrupted, her resolve flooding her veins. "We're here together and this might help us both. If we're facing memories, we might as well face them together." Jake's parents exchanged worried looks, unsure of how to respond. It was clear they weren't accustomed to dealing with discomfort. They had curated their life around avoidance. But Sarah felt unshackled. Each word she spoke added weight to her determination. This was about more than confronting family scandals. It was about identity and reclaiming her narrative. "I grew up thinking I had to hide who I was because my family wasn't perfect. But perhaps I've shielded myself so much that I've lost sight of who I am," she confessed. "What I've realized is that I want to be defined by my choices moving forward, not just by the past I've inherited." The sound of her voice grew steadier. A clarity bubbled up from deep within, shattering the earlier trepidation. Jake's gaze was now filled with admiration, a shift that sparked a glimmer of hope in her heart. It was clear to her that the two of them were navigating a defining moment, one that would reshape their bond forever. Suddenly, a cacophony erupted from the outside, shouts from a neighbor. The muffled chaos felt a world apart, buzzing with its own urgency, but it reminded Sarah that the world kept turning. It jolted her back to the present, grounding her in the resilience that had begun to burgeon inside. "Whatever happens next, I know we can handle it," she whispered to Jake, a promise forged amidst uncertainty. She had recommitted to herself, and within that she found the certainty she craved. Jake nodded slowly, his heart softened toward the journey ahead. The words hung between them, confirmation of a pact to unearth their truths. But as they prepared to delve deeper, basking in their newfound understanding, another unsettling thought emerged. What other secrets lay hidden, poised to challenge the very foundation they were trying to build? Would the search for truth draw them closer together, or cast shadows on their future? As awkward silence reigned, she sensed challenges were looming. This confrontation was only a precursor, a first step into a treacherous territory that could yield not just revelations about their families, but about themselves. The question loomed ominously. Would they brave the storm together or find themselves swept apart, spiraling into their individual pasts? The air thickened with uncertainty as Sarah leaned into the moment, her heart thumping in tandem with the unspoken revelations simmering between her and Jake. She could feel the weight of their collective histories hovering in the corners of the room, like shadows waiting to be acknowledged. Every instinct urged her to step back, to retreat into the safety of silence, but instead, she chose to push forward. "Let's not dance around it," Sarah said, her voice steady. "What are we really afraid of here, the truth?" Jake's gaze bore into hers, searching for the conviction behind her words. It was evident that he was grappling with his own fears, but she sensed a flicker of hope growing in him, a quiet understanding that faced the mounting past. Jake's parents remained transfixed, caught between the impulse to comfort their son and the need to confront their own unexpressed regrets. But Sarah had shifted the dynamics irrevocably. She was no longer a spectator in this family drama. She was an active participant, ready to dismantle the walls that had long shielded them all from their truths. "Secrets are heavy," she continued, glancing at Jake's parents. "I know how it felt to carry the burden of my family's past. I spent years trying to be someone I wasn't, terrified of what people might think if they discovered the whole story. It's made me really question who I am." Jake nodded, understanding flashing in his eyes. "So, what do we do now?" The question hung in the air, pregnant with promise. The challenge was clear. They would either forge their paths through the haunting memories or allow those pasts to suffocate the possibility of a brighter future. She could feel her resolve intensifying. This was her moment to break free from the limitations she had imposed on herself. "We share our truths," Sarah proposed, aware of the gravity in her voice. No more deflections, no more safe stories. It's time to lay it all out. Jake's breath hitched, but he drew in courage. You first, he said softly. There was no judgment, only sincerity. A vulnerability that felt grounding. And with that, a flicker of courage ignited in Sarah, rekindling her spirit. Taking a deep breath, she began. When I was a child, my mother left home. She disappeared without explanation. And the secrets my father kept turned into walls around our family. I learned never to ask about her, afraid of breaking the fragile peace. But I was always haunted by questions. Why didn't she want us? Who had she really been? As the words flowed, Sarah's mind raced. She hadn't anticipated the rawness that would accompany her truth, how it would pin her in an emotional chokehold. But there was liberation in sharing, a catharsis that fueled her momentum. It scared me. I feared I would reflect all her failures if I let myself become too vulnerable. But I realize now that hiding from my past doesn't define me. It just incites fear. Jake listened intently, his brow furrowed in sympathy but also in thoughtfulness. That's incredibly brave, and it makes me want to share too. The idea of sharing felt monumental, both terrifying and invigorating. What truths had he buried beneath years of familial pressure? As she watched him wrestle with his thoughts, she believed their shared honesty might weave a stronger bond than avoidance ever could. As his parents shifted nervously, the stark silence of their acceptance loomed. Jake didn't back down. He met her eyes with determination. My family isn't perfect either. I've missed my mom for so long, feeling abandoned when all she did was protect me from a reality she thought I couldn't handle. The weight of his words shifted the atmosphere once more, an invitation to embrace the discomfort they had both considered inevitable. It solidified their aim, to unveil their pasts for the sake of shaping their presents. But as confessions hung precariously in the air, a chill crept in. What unseen barriers would they have to confront? How deep would these revelations cut? Sarah felt the uncertainty settle over them like a shadow. Would their honesty be enough to unravel the years of built-up tension? Or would it thrust them further into chaos? The scene unfolded with suspended resolve. They were standing at the precipice of vulnerability. She sensed a deeper storm brewing within her, and the question reverberated in her mind. What lay ahead if they dared to confront even deeper secrets yet unspoken? The silence that followed lingered, heavy with unspoken truths and uncharted emotions. Sarah observed Jake, wrestling with a mixture of hesitation and resolve. Yet she sensed an evolution unfolding within him, a determination to peel back the layers that had concealed his true self for far too long. She was struck by the realization that their mutual honesty had propelled both of them into an introspective journey, one that would challenge the very fabric of their identities. "Are you ready to keep going?" she asked, her voice a whisper that seemed to reach into the depths of their fears. Jake nodded slowly, a veneer of fear replaced by a glimmer of courage. He took a breath, as if engaging in an act of defiance against the fears that had long kept him shackled. I think I'm tired of being defined by my family's expectations." His words treaded softly, almost as if he were still testing their truth. "My dad expects me to take over the family business, to mold myself into what he thinks I should be. But I want more than that. I want to explore who I am beyond being his son." Sarah felt a profound connection to his conflict. It resonated deeply within her own struggles. The burden of expectations often felt suffocating, as they molded her to fit a version of herself she had yet to embrace completely. "What do you want, Jake? Beyond the shadows of your family's desires?" He sighed, pacing ever so slightly, a telltale sign of the turmoil within. "I want to travel, immerse myself in new cultures, learn about what makes people tick. I've always loved photography, capturing unscripted, real moments. It's a hope, something raw and unedited, but that's not what's expected of me." His confession was laced with vulnerability, punctured by the weight of his father's aspirations. In that moment, the burden of truth rendered her speechless. Would their acknowledgement of each other's pains translate into a catalyst for their growth? Together, they could peel away the fears, the very fears that had shorn them of whom they could become. "Then go for it," Sarah said, emboldened by a newfound confidence swelling within her. "No one deserves the shackles of someone else's dreams. You have every right to chase your own. The path is there. You just have to take it." His eyes widened, sparked by her conviction. "But what if I fail?" "What if you fly?" she countered, a smile breaking her serious demeanor. It was a question that echoed beyond their conversation. It was about breaking societal molds, liberating themselves from gender norms and familial expectations. In that moment, she was more than an observer. She was an ally, encouraging Jake to carve out a life for himself. But Sarah was learning too. The conversation nudged her closer to unearthing her own desires, her ambitions eclipsed by self-doubt. "If we're speaking truths here, I want to become an author," she said suddenly, vulnerability creeping in. "I've dabbled in writing, but I always believed I wasn't good enough. I thought I'd settle for stability instead of pursuing my passion." "It's ridiculous." Jake's gaze steadied on her, admiration replacing uncertainty. "So what stops you? You just shared one of your deepest fears with me. Own it. Write. You can shape your story." The room pulsed with mutual empowerment. They were no longer just two individuals bound by shared histories. They were allies forged in the fires of aspiration. Yet what kind of ambition could these revelations ignite in a larger context? As they exchanged words and woven dreams, Sarah began to sense the undercurrents of something deeper, a realization that their journey together stretched beyond personal growth into uncharted territories of connection. But just as momentum began to build, Jake paused, his expression shifting to one of trepidation. "Can we really just break free? What if our families don't understand us? What if we lose them in the process?" A weight settled heavily between them, the shadows re-emerging to remind them of the possible fallout. Would their newfound resolve withstand the scrutiny of those who had always been a part of their lives? As uncertainty beset them once again, Sarah felt a crack in her confidence, but this time, it came not from doubt but from the reality of the stakes involved. What would they face if they pursued their true paths? The abrasive discomfort of change stirred within her, prompting questions about the cost of authenticity. As the heaviness loomed, Sarah clutched the fragile hope that perhaps, just perhaps, this was the moment they could not afford to let slip by. In the months that followed, Sarah and Jake navigated the tumultuous journey of honesty and self-discovery together. The conversations ignited that day became the cornerstone of their relationship, transforming them from mere partners into relentless allies in the pursuit of authenticity. Each revelation about their past unwrapped layers of misconception, breeding a profound understanding they had yet to explore. Determined to confront their respective histories, they tackled difficult discussions with Jake's parents while facing the discomfort that masked the truths Sarah once suppressed. Each encounter was an opportunity, not only to disclose burdens long carried but to redefine their identities. Despite the fear of stepping into the unknown, the anticipation of unearthing potential fueled the fire of their alliance. As Sarah delved into the world of writing, she discovered a fervor she had suppressed for so long. Going from scribbling on napkins to crafting short stories fueled her soul, transforming her insecurities into stories that resonated with raw emotion and truth. At a local writers' retreat, she achieved her first publication in a magazine. It was a victory that solidified her identity as an author, a personal achievement that felt monumental, yet deserved. Reflecting on those early days of uncertainty, she appreciated the distance she had traveled. Becoming an author was not just a title, it symbolized her liberation from the fragments of doubt that had hindered her growth. She had finally conquered the fear that had strangled her for years, recognizing her worth and talent within the realm of creativity. Her voice, now heard through her writing, was a herald of her personal evolution. On the other hand, Jake embarked on a journey of self-discovery that surpassed expectations. He delved deeper into photography, ultimately pursuing an exhibition showcasing ordinary moments that told extraordinary stories. The community gathered to celebrate his work, reflecting on how authenticity resonated with everyone present. Jake's parents, once hesitant, expressed unanticipated pride, recognizing the courage it took for both Jake and Sarah to unveil their truths. Gradually, the connection with his family transformed. The revelations no longer strained their interactions. They shifted the dynamic into requests for understanding and dialogue. The burdens they had carried together morphed into shared aspirations, supporting their freedom to pursue individual passions. In this journey, both Sarah and Jake not only reconciled their identities, but cultivated their shared dreams and goals, creating a bond steeped in transparency. The once daunting past acted as a catalyst, propelling them toward their individual destinies while solidifying their relationship. Reflecting on her transformation, Sarah found solace in her newfound authenticity. She had made it through her fears, emerging not as a product of expectation, but as an architect of her own narrative. Each written word was a testament to her journey, a constant reminder of what it meant to confront the darkness of uncertainty and reach for the light of fulfillment. Jake felt a similar sense of accomplishment, embracing his passions and taking ownership of his identity, free from any legacy that had once constrained him. Through it all, they surged into life with a buoyant spirit, emboldened by their evolution. They understood this was just the beginning, the last pieces of the puzzle they navigated together, ready to tackle whatever obstacles the future held. As they often reminded one another, they were no longer bound by the chains of yesterday. They were free to write their stories. Their pasts had become stepping stones, fateful moments that compelled them to redefine who they were. With each embrace, shared in the clear light of truth, both discovered that love flourished not in the absence of conflict, but in the willingness to face it together. In the grand landscape of life and dreams, Sarah and Jake found their footing. Together they became titans of their narratives, building a future infused with intentions of honesty and aspirations of relentless achievement. What lay ahead was unclear, but they now understood that their journey, fraught with challenges, wove the very fabric of their lives together. It was more than confrontation. It was unity, authentic love, and resolve for deeper connection. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will continue to inspire and ignite your spirit. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this community. Comment below with your reactions and theories about this journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for true personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second.